まもなく3時になりますので、委員会の方。
It will be 3 o'clock very soon, and we'd like to begin our Independent Investigation Commission hearing at 3 o'clock exactly. First, we'd like to say that our stage seems to be higher, and it looks as if we are looking down on the audience. Please do understand this is not intentional. This is how the venue is set up, if you would kindly understand that. And a few remarks I'd like to make to the observers, if you would be so kind as to look over your list of items to keep in mind. Please refrain from making statements during the session. And during the session, please be so kind as to remain in your seat. If you do stand up and decide to leave, we will have to ask you to please leave for the day. Please be so kind as to remain seated for the duration of the hearing. Thank you very much for your kind cooperation. We will begin shortly.
それではただいまから委員会を開催した。
We would now like to begin our commission meeting. We would like to have Chairman Furukawa begin. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you so much for making this opportunity possible. And we have Fukushima Prefecture's Governor SATO And this time, you had experienced the Great East Japan earthquake, not just the earthquake, but the tsunami and the Fukushima Daiichi great accident that had taken place. And for the residents of this prefecture, we had to ask you to evacuate, shelter in place, and you have gone through a lot of pain and suffering. And I only feel deep respect for everything that you've been persevering through. We just have about 2 hours, but we look forward to learning more about these matters. Our National Diet of Japan Fukushima Nuclear Accident Independent Investigation Commission meeting, the 17th meeting, will now begin. Today, we will hear from the witness, and we will also have a question and answer session. And we have the governor of Fukushima Prefecture. We have Mr. Yuhei SATO, who is governor of Fukushima, who had experienced this from 1989 to 2006. He was a member of the House of Councilors, and he became governor in 2006. And during the accident of Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station, he was involved with the response vis-a-vis the accident. We would like to have Governor Sato speak about the response and the nuclear energy policy generally for about 20 minutes, and then begin our question and answers. You have 20 minutes, please, Governor, to speak. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I have just been introduced. I am Yuhei Sato. Today, we have the National Diet of Japan Fukushima Nuclear Accident Independent Investigation Commission here today. And as Chairman Furukawa has just mentioned, the nuclear power station accident took place here in this prefecture, and you've come here to conduct your Independent Investigation Commission meeting, and I'd like to thank you for coming here from the bottom of my heart. As you are well aware, last year we experienced the earthquake, tsunami, and the nuclear power station accident. And there were also a lot of very harsh rumors that went about. And there was a typhoon that had assaulted our area as well. So it seems as if we were assaulted by 6 different layers of disasters, natural disasters, and the nuclear power station disaster. Looking back on it now, of course, I have the response committee that has been set up at the prefectural government. And we've had our meetings on the order of 258 times. And we've been looking into the school situation and what we will do about the sewage system and the rubble situation and how it has accumulated and how we will deal with this. Every time we have our committee meeting, there is a new turning point that we come to. We have been putting our lives on the line in dealing with each and every one of these issues, and that is not an exaggeration for me to say that. As you are well aware, about 160,000 of our people needed to evacuate, and they have no choice but to evacuate. Also, as far as children are concerned, about 16,000 children. It's a very severe situation. They have evacuated. And also, a great many people. What is the radiation dosage they are asking day in, day out, and living their lives in that manner? And each and every one of the members of this commission, I'm sure you are investigating the causes of the accident. At the same time, you are looking at the current situation here in Fukushima, and you are working very hard to make certain that there can be a revived Fukushima prefecture and that restoration and recovery can take place as soon as possible. We ask you for your continued efforts. I'd like to begin my explanation. First, I'd like to talk about the situation here in Fukushima prefecture, which has provided this electric power, and how we have responded to this situation. Next, we had this nuclear power station disaster and how we've dealt with that, and what sort of challenges exist that we have to deal with. I'd like to talk about each of those matters in turn. From this point forward, if you will allow me, I would like to remain seated as I continue my presentation. First, as far as our prefecture, which is the prefecture that has these nuclear power stations, in the 27th year of the Showa era, 1952, Tadamigawa was the area where hydroelectricity power station was set up. And then we moved on to thermal and nuclear. And in March of the 46th year of the Showa era, in 1971, the Unit 1 of Fukushima Nuclear Power Station began its operations. And for 40 years, we have lived together with this nuclear power generation. And we have 10 units altogether, and it's about 9 billion kilowatts, million kilowatts. And as far as our power generation is concerned, we provide about 1/3 of the power generation that is needed for the Tokyo area, metropolitan area, and we have contributed greatly to the further growth of our country. Next, as far as the policy regarding securing safety of the nuclear power stations, as far as our prefecture is concerned, we need to provide for the safety and security of our nuclear power stations. This is a priority. And this is something that is assured by the country and is regulated by the country in a unified manner. However, from our point of view, we have our agreements with the operators, and we monitor the release of radioactive dosage into the environment, and we also do our confirmations regarding safety. Also, we have to make sure that there is anti-seismic evaluation that takes place, and the reactor safety must be assured, and the prefectural government works on this continuously, and the pluthermal acceptance was also another issue that we have been seriously dealing with. From the 19th year of the Heisei era to the 22nd year of the Heisei era, those 4 years, we have had our meetings in order to secure safety. And we have had our technical considerations that have been made. And we have had 42 safety evaluations and confirmation take place for the purposes of assuring safety of our prefectural residents as well as the residents of our country overall. Since I became governor, right after November of 2006, there has been the hiding of very important information relating to trouble. And Fukushima Daiichi and Fukushima Daini had overall about 200 issues that cropped up as issues. And this led to our losing trust. And this was a situation from the point of view of the people of our prefecture as something that was quite shocking. For the operators, I have asked them to please work on once again ensuring that that trust that has collapsed would be regained. And as far as the hiding of some of the data and the important trouble incidents that had happened and the hiding of these, we have made a request to the minister to please look into that. And in July of the 19th year of the Heisei era, 2007, this was something that shook the trust that the people felt regarding this nuclear power generation. And there were various kinds of risks that have been perhaps underestimated. All of the regulatory bodies' distrust has grown vis-a-vis these bodies.
The central government and the utilities, in terms of to secure safety of the nuclear power generation, said that they'll do the best. But still, in recent years, we have experienced those incidents repeatedly. And also, we repeated to the national government to secure the anti-seismic safety structure-wise, as well as NISA's getting independent from the METI. We actually repeated this request in September 2007, together with the other associated organizations. We strongly requested to the Minister of METI. These points were requested, and in 2010, September, actually, we attended the top 3 officials meeting of METI to make a strong appeal to the necessity of the securing safety and regulations. And Unit 3 in 2010, in terms of the accepting plutonium thermal plant for number 3, we actually asked the anti-seismic safety and to confirm the countermeasures against aging of the unit, and also the soundness or the mixed oxide fuels characterization and safety. And we actually asked for the expert's opinion to confirm the said points. There were a list of 72 points to confirm all those variables to secure the safety and comfort of the resident of the prefecture. We solicited the government to collect the data and enhance the acquisition of the findings to be properly reflected in the policy. Based upon the Tokaimura's JCO's incident in 2010, there was a law on the special measures of the nuclear accident enacted. And the same year, we revised the nuclear disaster plan, and including off-site center of the government, we further enrich the countermeasures against the disaster. And after I took governorship, for the first time as a governor of the prefecture, I participated personally in the overall drill. After that, in 2008, we conducted the joint drills with the national government, and the following year, we also conducted drilling for anti-terrorist purposes. So all those disaster drillings have been conducted every year with the participations of the residents, as well as the schools of the prefecture went through the drilling of the evacuation under a structure. Oba, Futaba, Tomioka, Narahama, in all those towns, and Hironomachi, Namie, within 10 kilometers radius of the plants for all households. We distribute the written notes to be taken care of when some incident takes place. However, as to the expertise and technical items of those countermeasures, all those were based upon the central government's guideline. And even February 15th, 16th of 2010, at the Fukushima plant, we conducted the nuclear disaster drilling within the prefecture. Unit 5, we assumed all AC power source was stopped and loss of cooling function, but emergency diesel would be recovered so that the accident could be somewhat handled. That was the drilling we did, and whether we are prepared for the loss of the power supply, and if the diesel didn't operate. But only 4 months after that drill, we were bound to face the real accident. Next, countermeasures against the nuclear power plant accident, I would like to explain. And expansions of evacuation area and the malfunctioning of off-site center, and the prolonged contamination by the radioactive matters. All those phenomena was completely outside the assumption of the law. And the rules which were expected to be played by the central government had to play by the local governments. It was tremendously difficult for us, but to the best we could, we did all that we could. And upon receipt of the notice of the emergency from the TEPCO, 30 minutes later, the government announced the declarations of emergency. But it took 2.5 hours after TEPCO's notice that the central government issued emergency declarations, and additional 1 hour later, it reached the governor in the 2030 on the 13th. There was a danger of the tip of fuel be exposed. That was the communication made by TEPCO, and we couldn't really wait for the measures, action taken by the central government for the people of the residents. And in 2050, Okuma Futaba Machi, I called for the evacuation within the 10-kilometer radius, and also the government actually announced the evacuation within 3 kilometers and stay in shelter instruction within 10 kilometers. According to the manual, center and other related organizations were expected to have a close communication to identify where the resident would be advised to evacuate. However, because it was not assumed, although it was not assumed by the law, without any communication, without any explanation on the reasons why, unilaterally, there was instruction by the central government to evacuate beyond 10 kilometers. So 80,000 residents of the people and many others who felt fear were compelled to evacuate outside the prefecture. But under those dire situations, we did all we could do. Particularly the safety of the residents was most important, and we secured 101 areas for evacuations, and we call for the additional evacuation site in various municipalities. And it was quite unprecedented, and it was not in manual how we dealt with the evacuation on this large scale. So it was an unexperienced incident that we have to make judgment one after another as the situations changed. For the municipalities, we dispatched 20,000 people within 6 months after the accident to revive the function of the city or village offices, because those offices were destroyed. And we asked them to report to the disaster countermeasure headquarters. And for 46 prefectures, we actually made official request for assistance. And in proximity, we send our office people for the coordinations of assistance from the various places. For the physical protection, radioactive monitoring is prerequisite for any nuclear incident. Within 10 kilometers, prefecture took its own initiative. And we had the survey made for 7 locations. And from the evening of the March the 11th, we started the measurements, and with the cooperation of the media, we actually started to provide the readings as soon as possible to the residents. And also, based upon the assistance agreement, and a portable monitoring posts were installed in 5 locations within 30 kilometers from the March 12th. We started measuring using those portable sites, and we, including Fukushima city office, from 12 on 19 locations. Twice the measurements were taken twice a day, and from 21st in all municipality, the environmental radioactivity monitoring system was established. Nuclear Power Center established the surveillance system of the environmental radioactive system, but it became dysfunctional due to earthquake and tsunami. And we dispatched the person on emergency basis to start monitoring around the plant. I'm sorry. How long would it take for you to finish? It'll take 10 minutes. I think originally we actually assumed 20 minutes for your presentation. Would you be summarizing your presentation?
Yes, I understand. We have done our radiation monitoring activities as much as we were able to, and the offsite center utilized the telecommunications functionality, and it also acted as the command. It tried to act as the command tower, but was not able to do so adequately, and this is a very regrettable thing. And the exposure screening in the areas where the evacuees were not able to be done. About 1,400 teams came, and from the 13th to the end of the month of March, about 110,000 people were screened. However, we were not able to respond fully in the manner that we wanted to, but we tried our best to do so. And the effect of the radiation was monitored by SPEEDY. This information and the sharing of the information was not adequate, and we caused a lot of worry on the part of the residents of our prefecture. Usually, the system that was utilized for the protection of our residents was not able to function properly. And we need to think about the country's responsibility and have you investigate further into what needed to be done. Also, the anxiety on the part of the people of our prefecture went up. And the evacuees in the evacuated areas, as well as those areas that were not evacuation areas, people became more anxious. And the radiation and its effect on people's health was something that needed to be further judged. We asked Hiroshima University to please look into this, and we have 3 advisors that have come from Hiroshima in March, and they had 9 times sessions, and 4,000 people had heard this. Thank you very much, Governor. We understand you have a great number of things you'd like to share with us, but we only have until 5 o'clock. We do understand you're very busy as well. Perhaps we'd like to ask you a lot of questions, and if you would be so kind as to please respond to our questions, we'd like to continue in that manner if we may. And if you would be so kind as to allow us to put that up on our website, because we have very valuable time here. And Minister Kaeda and former Chief Cabinet Secretary Edano and former Prime Minister Kan, we've been able to hear from the 3 gentlemen. We would like to ask you very many questions, Governor, as the Governor of Fukushima Prefecture. If you would be so kind as to allow us to please go right into our question and answer session. Well, there's a lot of important things I'd like to speak about. I do understand, but I do think that when we ask our questions, you'll have the opportunity to speak about these matters because we understand your time is very valuable. Thank you so much for your cooperation. As you are well aware, our commission was put up in December of last year, and our first meeting was held in Fukushima, and we have 3 times town meetings that we held here, and we have also had our hearings vis-a-vis many people, and we have also received questionnaires back from about 20,000 people. It's about 16,000 people, I do believe. Yes, that's correct, and that's very valuable information that we would like to utilize in our investigation. And we understand that your time is very valuable, and we also have questions we'd like to ask of you, if you would be so kind as to indulge us. And there are so very many things we'd like to ask you, and we are very limited in time. So we'd like to ask for your cooperation. As you are well aware, this Commission does have simultaneous English interpretation, and there will be information that will be on our website. If you would be so kind as to please refer for further details to our website, we would appreciate that. Thank you. From Mr. Sakurai, we'd like to have the first questions asked, please. I am Sakurai, a member of this commission. From the governor, I'm sure that there are very many things you'd like to speak about, but because we are very limited in the time that we have with you, we'd like to begin our questions right away. Of course, we don't have very much time. It's very difficult to ask for simple answers, but if you would be so kind as to be as brief as possible in your answers. First, you were explaining about the situation prior to the accident. We heard about this generally. And as far as the danger of nuclear power station accidents, did you receive any explanation from the national government? I myself was a member of the House of Councilors of the Japanese Diet, and the Ibaraki JCO issue was something that I had handled then and asked questions to the concerned parties. So the multi-layered protection was something that needed to be assured. Even if there is an accident that happens, if there is that multi-layered protection that exists, then there would be protection that could be ensured. But there was also the discussion of the safety myth as well, I recall. From TEPCO, have you heard about this? This time? No, before the accident. Yes, from TEPCO as well. There is a safety agreement that we have with TEPCO, and there are various matters that are discussed. So therefore, that multi-layered protection is something that is very important. Yes, I understand. As far as the prefecture is concerned, vis-a-vis the municipalities and the residents, the safety of and the danger of the nuclear power stations, how did you explain this over the years? As far as this is concerned, we have the safety agreement with TEPCO, and this safety agreement has to do with Fukushima prefecture and the siting towns and villages agreement. So therefore, it's the prefectural and the municipalities officials, and about 20 times a year in 70 locations we would conduct our check, and this was done every year. And so as far as the safety response was concerned, that's something that we were researching constantly. As far as the prefecture is concerned, having looked at the material of the body that you are a member of, there's a lot of public relations information that's being provided regarding nuclear safety, and the danger can be avoided in terms of the safety being assured. Well, that's something that we have been working on. Well, in the public relations activities that were conducted, elementary school, junior high school, and senior high school students were participating actively, and they participated actively in the discussions that took place. Now that this accident has happened, from the point of view of the governor, how do you feel regarding these school children? There's about 17,000 school students that are evacuating outside of Fukushima currently. It's a very regrettable thing. I would like to decontaminate the environment here. I myself, if I can work on that, would like to continue to do that so that these school children can come back, and the response regarding decontamination and the countermeasures are being put together and implemented now. Earlier, there was the disaster preparedness training that you had mentioned. Last year, you had explained the preparedness training, and there might be compound disasters that could take place. And even if it's not related to the nuclear power station accident, there might be in parallel some kind of accident. For example, there might be an accident there in the nuclear power station, and then an earthquake might occur. Doing this kind of disaster preparedness training, was that something you considered? As far as compound disasters are concerned and preparing for that is concerned, that's something that I also participated in as governor, and that kind of discussion. Let's say, for example, TEPCO, I think it was about the 20th year of the Heisei era, when there was a discussion about the tsunami. There was a discussion within the company about this in 2008. And I think it was regrettable that we didn't hear about this ourselves. And so, therefore, at that point in time, as far as compound disasters are concerned, this wasn't something that was clearly mentioned, I believe, at that point. I understand. Next, from the governor, there was an explanation about the instructions given regarding the 2-kilometer evacuation. And the reason for that was because the national government's judgment decision was slow in coming. How did you relay this to the residents of your prefecture? As far as this is concerned, we did it through the media because the telecommunications network wasn't working properly. And so we had given instructions that evacuation needed to take place. And so you had set up this 2-kilometer evacuation zone. As far as the prefecture is concerned, did you contact NISA or the national government? It was not possible at that time for us to contact them. 2 kilometers was something that we were prepared for, and for the people of the area, we wanted to assure their safety. And so up until then, in our training, That's something we had provided for within our prefectural government, and that's what we decide to carry out.
Well, you referred to the central government's instruction for 3-kilometer evacuation further and 10-kilometer evacuation. When it comes to 3-kilometer evacuation, how did you come to know about it? No, I first knew by media, and the official notice came to me. What about 10-kilometer? The same applies. For 10-kilometer evacuation, I think you had very difficult time to cope with. But after that, the distance was expanded to 20 kilometers. How did you react? Well, I was not really aware of, and from my point of view, 20-kilometer was not in our mind. So we are not sure what were the justification to come up with the 20 kilometers. We didn't know, and there was no explanation. As I recall, there was a voluntary evacuations and a stay in the shelter instruction, and I think that people were confused about it. When it comes to stay indoor or inside the shelter, the instruction is that from the prefecture government perspective, this evacuation has been prolonging, continuing over long term. What do you think? Within 20 kilometers and had to stay in shelter, as well as there was a voluntary evacuations, and people didn't know which they should take. They couldn't go out. How they could support their living? How could they live? And at the place with the high dosage level, then they evacuated on voluntary basis. Well, communication method is something you referred to previously. The prefecture office has some a communication method to the municipalities and residents. What type of communication media did you have as prefectural government? There was a radio communication for disaster incident, but it was not functional. For the radio communication for at disaster, I would like to have several questions. The main equipment of that radio communication was installed on the 5th floor of the prefectural office, and there was a zero level of the anti-seismic intensity, very fragile. And I think also you have some enforcement plan to raise the seismic intensity of the building. But how do you think about the fact that most important equipment installed on the fragile floor? Well, more important was the off-site center didn't function well. That was the one of the major reasons that have caused confusion. The fact that equipment was on the 5th floor. Actually, office building was built in late 1940s or such, and but it couldn't be remodeled. But I thought it was a safe place, and offsite center is there. Well, I think I should ask the questions on offsite center to central government. But to my knowledge, and there was actually 2 radio communication lines only available. Did you know about that when these lines were installed on the 3rd floor of the municipal building? Yes, I was aware of that. That we had cell phone as well, so we try to have best use of cell phone for collecting information. I would like to now come to the specific questions. Well, you also explained the monitoring efforts you made. As prefecture, you had monitoring stations prior to the accident. That was the monitoring post owned by the prefectural government. Yes, they're in 24 locations. How many of them function well after the accident? You said 24 locations. How many of them were actually functioning after the accidents? 2 locations were functional. And some of them were affected by the disasters, but majority of the monitoring posts were not functional due to earthquake. What do you think about that? We didn't do the investigation. We haven't done enough investigations yet. So there is a likelihood that monitoring posts would not be functional, affected by the earthquake. So this is one of the improvements that prefecture might think in the future. There's one question related is the iodine distribution. Is it something decided by the central government? If there's no instruction, as I understand, the governor could distribute the iodine based upon the law. That's how I understand the law said. So did you give any considerations of the distribution of stabilizing iodine? I think we were actually consulting with the government, but we didn't distribute. Did you get response from the government? Excuse me? Within 50 kilometers, later the central government gave instructions, so we distributed the iodine. Before that, did you consider whether the prefecture should distribute the iodine or not? We didn't consider and we didn't distribute. After the accident, you yourself also referred to the various actions, but in the retrospect, from the prefecture point of view, how the offsite should have been. The offsite center is the forefront center. I hope that I had time to read my position, but potable water, agricultural products in Fukushima, and there were a lot of contaminated items. There was also the laboratory to inspect those items, but it wasn't really functional and it caused great problems to the prefecture. Actually, offsite centers was headed by the prime minister. So I think offsite center should have been functional, but actually it wasn't. So I think that was really a problem. The offsite center lost function. I think that was known to a lot of people. And in the prefecture, you had the countermeasure headquarters, and how do you look back at the activities of the headquarters, particularly at the initial phase? In Jikocho headquarters, it was open at 4:30 on the 11th of March. The first day on the 10th floor, for 3 days, approximately 40 times we held meeting, 10 times on the first day and 20 times on day 2 to identify the areas of evacuation, how to deliver supplies, and how we can protect the vulnerable people. There were hospitals on Hamadori, how we can deliver the vulnerable people to the safer places. So we were compelled to make a quick decision on those. I think, Governor, you know the conditions at the time best. In Fukushima Prefecture, not many people in the prefecture government were capable of handling all those situations among Hokusai Center and prefectural headquarters. And also, there was another headquarters, a countermeasure headquarters at the Fukushima plant. So there are people who have to really to be located in all those centers. What about the resource problem? Rather than we allocated people, off-site center was not functional, so our people could not really stay there. And also radioactive level became high, and there was difficulty in identify the proper place for the headquarters where people could have a relatively easy access, where information could be collected. So that's why we held the headquarters on the 5th of the prefectural government office. Well, due to time constraint, I would like to turn the microphone to another commission member. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sure there are other questions that will be asked, but having heard what you had to say, you said that cell phones were used, but were the cell phones usable then? Yes, they were usable. I'm sure you're well aware, but on the 15th, there's really no government offices, so municipal offices, to be able to contact the mayors of the cities and towns and villages was on the 15th and thereafter. Having heard from these others, most of the information was received from television because the cell phone might be able to be used, but they were not able to receive the call. And the radio technology that you tried to use was not really anti-seismic in its properties. So therefore, there's all kinds of simulations that you did. And within your towns and villages, perhaps you didn't have any considerations to change the location of the radio. It will be the day after I talked about, and I had contacted on the 15th and thereafter the disaster-stricken areas and the city and town heads. And I said, what is it that you need? And where are you going to be evacuating? And then whom do you need us to contact? And what do you need? And I contacted them by cell phone. And so as far as the radio was concerned, it was not placed or located in a anti-seismic area. And wasn't this a concern? Even if it wasn't a concern of yours, someone else's concern. But perhaps you don't recollect, so maybe you didn't think about it. As far as that is concerned, there are different groups that were in charge of different matters, and each of the heads of those groups tried to grasp the situation, and I'm sure they had all kinds of issues in terms of conducting their communications. Yes, please, next. Yes, I'd like to ask some questions with regard to policy and the system. As you are well aware, our commission is looking into elucidating the reasons for the accident, and we're also trying to utilize our experiences and our lessons learned in order that we can prevent such a thing from happening again in the future. There are 2 points I'd like to ask about. First of all, the safety agreement. The relationship and how it was between the prefecture and the central government. First, as far as the safety agreement is concerned, you had mentioned this several times since earlier. After the accident occurred, looking back on it as governor, when you think about the safety agreement between TEPCO and the locations where the sighting took place, were the content abided by? Rather than saying were they abided by, 10 times a year there were meetings held, And there were 70 locations where inspections took place, but it could have been even more, I feel. And there could have been more inspections taking place. And another thing, this is something I've been saying since earlier, the importance of trust. It was the same in the past, and since I became governor, there's been all kinds of incidents that have occurred. I might have said this earlier. The relationship trust is something where nothing ought to be hidden, and none of the facts ought to be changed. So therefore, in that personal relationship, when you think about that safety agreement, this is something that needs to be steadfastly established. To have that provided for, maybe the way that this safety agreement exists, that is fine, but the content really needs to be reformed more and more. That might be the lesson that has been learned. Is that how you feel about this? Well, I do feel that not only is it an organizational, educational effort, but also a person-to-person relationship of trust that needs to be further fostered. Since this accident had happened, I went to Tokyo in order to attend the meetings having to do with restoration and recovery. And the press conferences are held in Tokyo, but it seems as if there's quite a distance between our Fukushima prefecture and the Tokyo press conferences that were held. And the reality of Fukushima was not being completely grasped, I felt. As far as this safety agreement is concerned, legally speaking, basically speaking, it's between the operator, TEPCO, and the sites where the power stations are. And it's something that's more voluntarily agreed to. Maybe there needs to be a more steadfast way of rooting this in laws and regulations. There's been that kind of discussion that has taken place. I do agree with that notion. I understand. The second point, the relationship between the prefectural government, municipalities, and the central government. Before that, in this agreement, when we think about the existence of nuclear power stations and what needs to be done regarding that, it's basically the country that's the national government that's responsible for that. So the agreement with the municipalities, that needs to be made into a legal framework. There might be some difficult issues in relation to that, though. Yes, I do understand what you're saying. We don't have very much time, so I'd like to move on. And the second point, the relationship between the national government and the prefectures and local municipalities. Since you became governor, you have made requests time and again that there needed to be more of a strengthening of the assurance of safety. I think it was 1999 or 2000 when you became a member of the House of Councillors. There was the JCO criticality accident that took place, and there was the special Act on Special Measures concerning nuclear emergency preparedness that was being deliberated upon at that time. And you were a member of the House of Councillors at that time, and you participated in the question time. And what you had said then is that as far as this act is concerned, that the direction might be good, but it's not complete and thorough as far as its content is concerned. Especially regarding the initial response, this needs to be done in a more swift manner, you had said. And so what is in this bill that was discussed at that time? If there is an abnormal situation that arises, then the minister would be contacting the prime minister, and then there would be a proclamation on emergency procedures that would be issued by the prime minister, and then the steps would be taken. But in addition to that, the prefectural governors and the mayors of the towns, villages need to have the authority to conduct the activities they need to conduct. And that's a proposal that was made at that time in the deliberations that was made. And as far as the government is concerned, they said, no, this bill is fine as it is. But this time, there was this accident that had occurred. And this is something that really is above and beyond our imagination as to what you've gone through throughout this time. But what you had said, if it was realized, the opposing party, the Democratic Party of Japan, was making that statement at that time. But if it could have been as you had desired, then there might have been a better response to that emergency situation. Don't you feel that way? I'd like to say two things. Another thing I've been saying since earlier, as far as NISA is concerned, it needs to become independent, and it needs to together with the energy agency, to promote and to check is not a good thing, I said. And I had mentioned this as a reality issue, but there needed to be negotiations to that end. But the deliberations did not continue in the manner that I had desired them to continue in. So therefore, as far as the check functionality was concerned, I'm wondering whether it was really something that could be implemented or not. Also, unifying this matter. If I talk about the sewage system, for example, it's the Ministry of Land and Infrastructure, and with regard MLIT. And so they say that if it includes radioactive substances, then that's not under our jurisdiction. And they say it's under MEX's jurisdiction or some other ministry. So therefore, the way in which they dealt with the situation was delayed. So therefore, there needs to be a one-stop place where people can go to make certain they can look further into this and have action taken. Well, yes, from Mr. Yokoyama, we'd like to have some questions. No, before that, perhaps, or Mr. Sakiyama? Well, then, I'd like to begin. As far as this emergency situation is concerned, you've said some things, and sometimes it's an emergency situation where you can't really follow the laws and regulations. And when you think about the long-term actions that needed to be taken, well, how did you feel about this, Governor? When you think about the residents of the prefecture and the immediate area and the safe evacuation of the residents, were there some specific actions that you had taken to ensure this? Well, during this time of confusion, there was a lot of congestion on the roads, and there wasn't enough fuel, gasoline. First of all, we needed to find evacuation sites. So each of the villages and towns and cities received contact, and we contacted them. And we waited for them opening up various sites for shelters. And there were discussions, of course, regarding gasoline being insufficient. And we also talked about food shortages. And this was something that was done in the initial stages, and we did our utmost in this regard. As a result, the residents went from evacuation site to evacuation site. Namie Machi, for example, about 6 times they had to move from evacuation site to evacuation site, sometimes even 8 times, 9 times. Well, if that was the case, when you think about all of that, and you think about the discussions that needed to have taken place with the residents of the area, did you do this? Yes, this is something that I did about 3 times.
If that's the case, well, the people live in the temporary housing at present time. And of course, the space was narrow and very difficult to live there. Have you ever thought about the improvement of the conditions of the temporary housing? Of course, we are doing. I visited the temporary houses. What problems do you see in the temporary houses at this moment? There are 2 types of temporary houses. Well, the first type were built by local ones, and the second one was from local central governments. Actually, there are many temporary houses we actually rented from the private sector. Most difficult was in the prefabricated houses. Of course, we were fighting with the clock. We have to really build 20,000 units of temporary houses by the end of April or May. And also amenity was important. So there would be 2-week delay if we actually emphasize the amenity. In case of prefabricated housing, in March and April, it was so cold, and there was strong demand for the heaters facilities. And to the best we could, we provided. And we also employ the wooden structures for the delay of the prefabricated, and the wooden houses have a better amenity. But so time and amenity, those factors sometimes were conflicting. It is difficult to satisfy the both requirements. But I think we enjoy good reputations in terms of the amenity. In terms of the damages to the medical institutions, hospitals, I would like to ask the following. Unlike the regular citizens' evacuation, it must be tremendously difficult to have the patients evacuate, hospitalized patients evacuate. In 6 locations, there were dosage problems, and we contacted with the police agency and fire agency, and we really have to really relocate the hospitalized patients as soon as possible, and so instructed to the people. You have the emergency system, but in terms of the initial medical care, were you aware of the fact that hospitals were located within 20 kilometers, so we couldn't use the hospitals? Were you aware of that? Would you please repeat the question? For the initial treatment, within 20 kilometers, hospitals that could provide the initial treatment were located within 20 kilometers, and only 2 hospitals out of 5 could be utilized. So there was some problem in capacity. In Soma, Iwaki, and Koriyama, outside the 20 kilometers, we asked for their assistance. It's a kind of initiative the prefecture government guided. Rather that we talked to the private hospitals of Fukushima, and through medical associations, we asked for their relocation through the person in charge. There is a Fukushima Prefectural Medical College. We contacted for their help. Did you think that you did a good job in this area? Well, no, we didn't have enough capacity to receive the patients, but there are so many hospitalized patients that have to be evacuated. So I think a lot of people were not really satisfied. Quite a number of patients actually lost their lives. So do you think that you could have done better in some aspects? Well, they have to change the shelters 6 times, even 7 times. They got very weak and their disease got worse. I think there were approximately 700 people who suffered from those difficult conditions. It was a quite pity. Member Sakiyama, please. My name is Sakiyama. Nice to see you. Well, with respect to 2 millimeters sievert in school, the next from the actually made inquiry to NSC, and NSC initially gave the answer of 1 millimeter sievert, but on the 19th of April, according to the announcement made by MEXT, the value was increased to 20 millimeters sievert. The school students, school pupils and students within the prefecture would have been subject to this value. But how did you think about this 20 millimeters sievert? I think this value, 20 millisievert, was applied both to the adults and students per annum. And soon after that, there was a press conference immediately after that, and we were confused. I think a senior vice minister of the MEXT and several government people were contacted by us whether 20 millimeter sievert is the right one or not. Did you any make requests to reduce the value from 20 millisievert? Yes, what I said, the validity of 20 millisievert was validated. I couldn't really understand your answer. I couldn't hear. Do you know that Mr. Osako, the special advisor to the cabinet, made a conference, and he actually resigned from being special advisor? That we all know. But when it comes to the prefectural governor, in terms of the health of the residents of the prefecture, have you ever made request or consulted with the central government or mixed people? In schools, in the living environment, particularly the schools at the primary area where the kids stay. So on the playground of the school, initially the 3 microsievert was the value that have to be contaminated by the central government on the basis of the 20 millisievert. And I actually made a request for the removal of the surface soil of the playground of the school. We actually asked the government to offer us more financial assistance. Actually, the mothers of the pupils in Fukushima visited the MEX office in Tokyo, and actually MEX finally he came up or tried to come up with the 1 micro sievert. Actually, students are living at the high dose level environment after, for example, a Chernobyl accident. Those children living in a high dose area were sent to sanatorium. That was the measure taken in that case. But as prefecture, do you have any similar plan for the children in a high dose area? we try to actually to do decontamination as much as possible to reduce the dose level of the environment of the children. Mix came down to 1 millisievert. Tried to come down to 1 millisievert, but there were no risk measures. And for children, well, children are very active. Do you have any plan to do something for those children? In each municipality, the grass patches are done. Well, in terms of education, after the accident, the mixed actually issue the sub-textbooks on the radioactivity for the students in elementary, junior, and senior high school. Have you ever seen the textbooks? I knew such textbooks was issued, but I haven't read the book, so you are not aware of the content of textbooks. In that teaching material, there was no reference. Well, the Fukushima accident was referred to in preamble in the textbooks, but in main text of the textbooks, there is almost no reference to the Fukushima NAIIC nuclear power plant accident. Are you aware of that?
I'm not sure. So you don't really know that textbook? How much of it will be used in Fukushima prefecture? Whether the content is inappropriate or not, you haven't thought about that? This is a difficult thing to say, but we would have to talk to the educational committee and discuss this further, the Board of Education. Well, basically speaking, things haven't changed from March the 11th. We'd like you to further consider whether this situation can remain as it has been. Thank you, I understand. As far as the health evaluation of the prefectural residents is concerned, is it an initiative to do the health survey vis-a-vis the residents of your prefecture? Yes, that's correct. To check the health and to maintain the health of the Fukushima residents. That is the purpose of it. And the radiation effects are something that will be long-lasting? Is that how you view it? Rather than saying that's our thinking, the exposure in a long-term, from the point of view of academics as well, whether for the low-dose radiation exposure, it's very difficult to get a clear answer as to what the effects of that low-dose radiation exposure would be. And that's something that we would like to, as a prefecture, start to look into seriously. Well, as far as the environmental decontamination is concerned, the woods and forests and rivers and decontaminating those, and how easy it is to do that or how difficult it is to do that. From the perspective of thinking about those as well, are you thinking about that? As far as food is concerned as well, it seems as if the contamination level seems to be going up rather than going down. So is it that monitoring as well that's included at the forefront of your mind? Of course, the mountains and the rivers and the forests and the woods are also being monitored as well. As far as radiation is concerned, and those who are easily affected by this and those who are not, that's something we've heard about that in terms of the sensitivity of the people. Is that something that you're also considering? categorizing people in different groups and conducting your surveys vis-a-vis the residents. We are doing these health surveys vis-a-vis the people of Fukushima, so I would need to ask the persons in charge of this, or I wouldn't be able to answer your question. Mr. Tanaka, please. Yes, I am a member of the commission. I am Tanaka. It's related to that survey of the residents' health. In Fukushima Prefecture, you are considering especially the health situation of those who are under the age of 18. And for those who are evacuees as well, a lot of them, even adults, feel a lot of stress and have damaged their health as a result. Thinking about all of those people, what is it that you hope to do as far as the prefecture is concerned? For those who are under the age of 18, it would be, of course, free medical services that would be provided. And we'd like to create an environment where it would be easy to give birth to children and easy to raise them. And we would like to set up a system that would assure that this would be possible. And so many people have undergone great stress over the past year, and they are living in Fukushima Prefecture, and they are continuing to measure the radiation levels. We are considering in Fukushima Prefecture what sort of medical services can be provided. We need to be able to provide them with very appropriate medical services. Whether then this can be made free of charge or not is something we're further considering. That's what we're hoping to do. According to the media in Fukushima Prefecture, as far as radioactive substances and exposure to that is concerned, people are very concerned, and whole body counters are very few and far between. And there are many people who have evacuated to other prefectures as well. The governor might have said something like, maybe this ought not be done. Is it incorrect? I'm sorry, I wasn't quite listening to what you were saying. For those who are evacuees, and of course there's a capacity that exists in terms of the people who can be evaluated, but it seems as if there's a limitation, so don't do the evaluations. What do you mean, don't do? To do the examination to the Fukushima residents. We've never said that. No, we didn't say that. The whole body counters and procuring that is a very difficult thing. So you've never said don't take examinations, don't have examinations made that might be a cause for greater worry. Mr. Nomura then, please. No, we've never said that. I'd like to ask you several questions. Before the accident had taken place, up until now, when we think about nuclear power generation and the siting of these here in your prefecture, I'd just like to ask a few questions related to that. Yesterday, former Prime Minister Kan had come and given his statement at the hearing, and the government is responsible for having promoted this nuclear energy policy, and that was the Prime Minister's words, and he was Prime Minister at the time of the accident, so we take this very seriously. And as far as TEPCO is concerned as well, when we think about tsunami and their knowledge about it, that's something they didn't disclose to the prefecture. There was criticism lodged against them for that. When we think about the tsunami countermeasures that should have been in place beforehand to be able to deal with this situation, was there even a possibility that such countermeasures could have been in place and could have been implemented? And you had said that TEPCO, in this safety agreement in 2008, that there was some sort of issue that had arisen at that time. If you could please elaborate on that further. Well, that's something that we learned about later on. There is that safety agreement. We talked about laws and regulations earlier as well, but it's a voluntary agreement that's put together. So this is something that needs to be stipulated very clearly in law. So even in 2008, when there was that issue that had arisen about the concealment of information, if laws could have been clearer on this and stipulated this, then it would have been much different. As far as this reality is concerned, as far as the prefecture is concerned, when you look back in the past, did you confirm this with TEPCO and gave them instructions to do this? No, regrettably, we found this out through the press. I understand. After that, as one opportunity we feel we're given was when the plutonium thermal was introduced. At that time, the tsunami countermeasures, if they were in place, then this type of accident could have been prevented. This has been pointed out by many this time. If you could please touch upon that. From the governor, there were 3 criteria that were suggested by the governor, 3 conditions. And you had a meeting with Minister Naoshima, and this was announced there publicly, officially. It was right before that or right after, perhaps. But when you gave these 3 conditions to the minister, do you recall what he said? As far as pluthermal and the introduction of this is concerned, for about a year there were technical meetings that were held. 10 times or so? More than 10 times. And it had to do with 70 different items, and each of them were checked for. And putting everything together, of course, making sure that the MOX would be safe, and then making sure it's anti-seismic and other things that needed to be made certain. Many experts gathered, and we did these discussions in the Diet as well. And to Minister Naoshima, we took this as a proposal and said, we'd like to have this realized by the operator. From the governor's proposal, these were 3 conditions that were seriously taken into account. I'm sure NISA's opinions were also taken into account. And then also accountability and other things that were also included in this. As far as the 3 conditions were concerned, make sure it's anti-seismic, and then make sure that the MOX fuel is a safe thing to be used, and another point as well. And as far as confirming this and the way in which to go about it is concerned, was there not some sort of discussion from the minister's side? I made this request to the minister. It's been quite some time, but I do believe that the minister had said, I will relay that to them. And at that time, when we think about Unit 5 and the interim report that had to do with the anti-seismic qualities, MOX fuel will be utilized in Unit 3. So regarding Unit 3, whether back check would be necessary or not, was there not a discussion that took place there then? No, there was not. Is that right? As far as Unit 5 and the anti-seismic safety is concerned, the interim evaluation has been done, and for the pluthermal Unit 3, the same confirmation has been done. Well, then Unit 3, the minister asked you whether it was necessary to do this confirmation, and the governor had said as a condition that this needs to be done. That's what we've considered at Fukushima prefecture. So you did relay this to him, that this was necessary as well. Is that correct? Yes. So at that time, what sort of check needed to be done after that? Your meeting with the minister ended. You talked about some other matters as well. But after that, you had the practitioners talk about these matters, and to make certain that these 3 conditions were fulfilled, what needed to be done? Wasn't there contact that came from them trying to confirm what needed to be done from the Energy Resources Agency? On the practitioners' level, I do believe that they were dealing with this, but basically, in detail, what they've confirmed, that's not something I heard about. And this is something that we're going to be further investigating, but it seems from the prefecture, we can't really confirm with you how you had put it, but from the government side, what we understand is that the check needed to be on the same level as what would be done vis-a-vis Unit 5 for Unit 3. And that's the understanding that was reached. The government is saying that, the central government. And for the anti-seismic back check, the interim report would have been sufficient. Did Fukushima prefecture say that? Do you recall having said that? Unit 5, whether it's on the same level as that, I had the understanding that it would be as it was written in the interim report, and the safety was confirmed based on that interim report, and the blue thermal was then adopted. And Unit 5 and the interim report, in the interim report, when you think about anti-seismic backcheck, do you remember that the tsunami possibility was also taken up there? And that's something I'm not aware of. If it's the same thing, this has already been disclosed as a document. If you look at Unit 5 and the interim report, the Jogan tsunami is being referred to, and it says that there needs to be further consideration made regarding the possibility of tsunamis. And Unit 3 and the anti-seismic backcheck and the interim report, whether there was a reference to the possibility of tsunamis, do you recall? No, I don't have an awareness of that. That's also been disclosed. If you could please confirm the content. The Unit 3 anti-seismic backcheck interim report doesn't refer to the possibility of tsunamis. And when we think about Unit 5 and the interim report, you did request the same level of confirmation. You could have said you were dissatisfied with the situation. You didn't confirm this then. No, I did not confirm this at that time. And earlier, I do believe that it was 2008, TEPCO, about tsunamis from the Civil Engineering Academy. There's been a conclusion put out that the tsunami happening would give rise to possibly an accident occurring. And gradually within the government, when you think about that interim report, NISA investigating this, anything that doesn't refer to tsunamis as far as interim reports are concerned, this was a period of time when tsunamis were being referred to in interim reports. Do you have any recollection about that, Governor? Well, at that point in time, that discussion was something that I wasn't aware was occurring.
Well, exactly on this point. If within the inter-report, inside NISA, NISA considered that the prefecture governor might have indicated that tsunami description was missing in the interim report. Were you contacted by NISA on this point? No. The other problem is something you are aware of. At that time within Fukushima prefecture, there might be some voices that NISA alone will not be sufficient to check the interim report, and maybe we should request the NAIC to do the double checking of the report. Yes, when I visited METI, there were some voices on the need for the double checking. Did you make any strong request on this point and the need for double checking? Yes. On this particular point for double checking requirement, I believe that there were discussions within the prefectural government. There was no really a specific request we made to the central government to conduct double checking. Well, for the METI, whose position is to promote nuclear power, actually took this issue as a very difficult problem. When double checking were to be required, it will involve NISA as well as NAIC. And NAIC at the time, as a finding available at the time, there were idea in NAIC to look for more severe description of the tsunami possibility in the report. So if there were requests for double checking requirement, then that might have caused some concerns on the side of METI. NISA actually made inquiry on this point vis-a-vis Fukushima prefectural government. Do you recall who actually received that inquiry from NISA in the prefectural government? Who actually received the message at the time? Well, whether the double check would be required or not, on that issue, we trusted the central government to decide. Yes, central government was interested, but there could have been some confirmation whether the prefectural government or the governor would seek for double checking. And the central government thought that if prefecture governor actually was asked about it, he may say yes. And there was an inquiry actually made by the government to the prefecture. But are you aware of the fact, the correspondence by the central government? According to the documents of the central government, the document says that they consulted the prefectural governor on this point, but there was no stronger request made by the government, so they thought that would be fine. And if they thought that they asked the governor one step further, in the prefectural assembly and the general questions, there was a question related to this point about the need for double checking. So central government actually anticipated that the prefecture might come up with a special request for double checking. So that's why central government contacted the prefectural government, and there were central government's documents referring to that inquiry. At the time when the decision was made to introduce a plutonium thermal reactor, if there was a one step further taken for you to make a request double checking, the situation would have been different. Well, the central government, because the central government has promoted nuclear power, if there had been any stronger request by you for countermeasure against tsunami, then the central government could have taken much severe measure against tsunami. No, I was not aware of. For the three conditions, if you request it, have to be checked by not only NAIIC and NAIC, then if you have insisted the double checking requirement, then the countermeasure against tsunami prior to the accident could have been different on the side of central government. And that could have been taken up by the TEPCO for consideration prior to the accident in due course. How do you see that possibility? Where TEPCO said that tsunami was outside their assumption. So I was not sure about the TEPCO's discussion. When you met with the Minister Naoshima, during your discussion with Naoshima, and the document says that there is a transfer money from the central government was referred to. And what role do you think the transfer money from central government play in the introductions of the plutonium thermal reactor? No effect, because I was aware of the special funds, almost 3 billion yen prepared to be given by the central government to the prefecture. Are you referring to my meeting with Minister Naoshima? There is no really discussion on that transfer of the money. When or how did you know about the availability of the transfer fund by the central government related to the plutonium thermal reactor introduction? Is a parcel's transfer money? No. What I'm saying is that there's a special measure referring to that. Yes, I was aware of that. So if 1 year was delayed in this decision, the amount will be reduced by 500 million yen per year. I was not aware of the details of the reduction of the transfer money each year. So, Governor, when you decided on the plutonium thermal reactor, you are not aware of the transfer money? No, although I was aware of the special measure. But there were residents in prefecture who knew about this transfer money by the central government very well. And the residents were talking about the decision to introduce the reactor should be done as fast as possible, unless otherwise the transfer money will be reduced by 500 million yen each year. But Governor, you didn't know about that. No, I was not aware of that. The transfer money, how much money did you get actually when you decided or introduced the plutonium thermal reactor, do you recall? You said you didn't receive? I think you received the money 500 million yen short of 3 billion. I think your decision was delayed by 1 month. So I think you must have received 2.5 billion yen. That is 3 billion minus 500 million because of a delay of 1 month. You can confirm. Your prefectural assembly, there was opinion and question asking you that by receiving 3 billion, you were selling like you're acting like selling the prefecture in return for 3 billion yen. I don't remember that. In promoting the nuclear power, there have been various measures taken. You said the safety is priority, and also you set forth 3 conditions to be satisfied. But on the side of the central government, there were gradual confirmations of the conditions, not to make that conditions so severe. The central government tried to confirm the facts and conditions gradually. But do you think that you were kind of betrayed? Do you have a sense of betrayal, having listened to this? Rather than a sense of betrayal, but something I would like to confirm with the central government. Well, that's the end of the question on the plutonium thermal reactor. And then I would like to shift the topic to the communication among the central government, prefecture government, and residents. When the accident happened, and since at that time, the people in the affected area was communicated through the prefecture government, not directly by a central government. In terms of the route of communication, do you see any points to be improved in the future? For the initial 3 months or initial phase after the accident swayed the area, in evacuation, the central government, I think, were communicating directly with the municipalities, and prefecture actually heard about the content of the communication later. So that caused great difficulty in responding on the side of the prefecture. On real-time basis, the instruction came from the central government to the residents. Within the communication initiated by the prefecture, were there any difficulty in communicating the information which came from the prefecture government to the residents of the prefecture? Were there any impediments or difficulties you had? We talked about 20-kilometer evacuation area. That 20-kilometer was instructed by the central government, and that was conveyed through the media. And we couldn't really respond to that properly. So it didn't really function well in terms of the flow of information. Were there any other difficulties you have? When the hydrogen explosion took place, that communication came to the prefectural government, but because of the damage to the communications, it was very difficult. What time did you receive that information on the hydrogen explosion? When did you receive that notice or that event took place? I think we received the news immediately after the explosion took place. So it was a system that such event took place, then that event notice should come to prefectural office. This is how the system was dictating. The notice should come to the prefecture government as well as the head of the city or the village where the site existed. So it was assumed like that, but there was some problem in communication So when the explosion took place, the municipality office function was located in shelter as such. Even if the communication, we tried to communicate with them, there was no really response as desired. I think prefecture government must have received a lot of pieces of information. Among those pieces of information, because of the telecommunication problem, the information that should have been communicated wasn't communicated. But I think what information to be conveyed or not, the selection process might not have been working well. Well, basically, we created the groups in charge of the communication. We had a good structure to communicate to the appropriate body. But it didn't work well. I think it was solely due to the problem of the telecommunication itself. Well, of course, the separate considerations have to be made whether which information would be useful or not. But there are some people who indicated that information was not really well managed. Do you have any problem in information management, or information was mismanaged at the time?
Regarding Speedy, we went to our headquarters, and there were lots of materials, documents that had come in, and we overlooked it. And as I had mentioned in the beginning, we did cause a lot of anxiety to the residents of our prefecture. Well, let's put aside the handling of that information. As far as information management is concerned, when you're not able to go through all the information, that's an example that you had raised, the Speedy example. But the basic reason as to why this happened was because you didn't train enough? Or was there an easier way that they could have relayed this information to you from the central government? As far as nuclear power safety is concerned, I do feel that the central government is responsible for that. And of course, the prefecture needs to think about the safety of the residents of the prefecture at the same time. If it rains, there needs to be an umbrella used or a raincoat used. So that sort of directions given, including that information. If there's an accident that happens, this kind of information will come from the central government, and this needs to be handled in such and such manner. This might be decided in a manual, or the persons in charge would receive the adequate training to be able to cope with that information that comes in. Did you do that kind of preparatory work necessary in order to make this happen? Well, after this accident occurred, in the very early stages, there was a lot of information that came in, and there was a lot of confusion. And the people at the headquarters and the sharing of information, that was not smoothly relayed to us. And so therefore, I feel that there was an organizational issue that existed. From the point of view of the residents, the responsibility of the national government, there's various things they can think about. Of course, when you think about the prefecture, the prefectural government is the closest body to the residents of the people. And the municipal governments, but the information was not relayed in a proper manner. It was very difficult to promote the activities that needed to be promoted. However, you are the prefectural government. Maybe your prefectural government is a victim as well, but from the residents' point of view, from the point of view of nuclear power generation and assuring the safety of that, and the response that the prefectural and municipal governments needed to take. From the point of view of the governor, do you feel that you've reflected on this and things ought to have been done in a different way? Crisis management organization and the way it needs to exist, we'd really like to be able to respond adequately and appropriately and do the review necessary. There is a project that you're putting together. If you would kindly be quiet. Thank you. That would be all from my end. We can have Mr. Yokoyama ask a question or two. It seems as if the prefecture was taking the lead. And when we think about the evacuation of the patients in the hospitals, you had touched upon this. From the governor, did you make a request to the national government that the self-defense forces come and support you? Yes, of course. On the 11th, there was a request made to the self-defense forces as well as the police. And we have asked for cooperation of the transfer of the patients from the hospitals. Depending upon the hospitals we're speaking of, some of the patients were left there and not transferred swiftly. Why do you think this happened? When you compare the hospitals and the evacuation of the patients, it seems as if some of the hospitals, there were a lot of patients who were left and not evacuated swiftly. It seems as if there was, of course, the radiation level being high and, of course, worries concerning that. Ms. Hachiska, please. I am Hachiska. I'd like to ask my questions. We are evacuees currently. When we think about this safety myth, it has crumbled completely, and we've really gone through the most atrocious experience, and we are living as evacuees even till this day. As governor, I'm sure you have various challenges that you're grappling with in order to make certain that there will not be evacuees such as ourselves in the future. What are you trying to do now to make certain that doesn't happen again? When I think about nuclear energy, this is something that human beings created. We're trying to control and contain the situation, but this is something that's very hard for human beings to handle. We need to further investigate what needs to be done so that we as humans can contain this situation and make certain that this type of accident never occurs again. Of course, knowledge is necessary for that purpose. And as I had mentioned earlier, the organizations need to be firmly established, and the relationship of trust between people is very important. And each of these factors need to be taken into account to make certain that this type of accident is avoided in the future. The safety myth, as you had mentioned, when I think about this, it might have been created over time in various corners, whether it be on the government level or the operators level, or even where these nuclear power stations are sited. Would that be all right then? Thank you so very much. We have asked for you to please stay until 5 o'clock. We must apologize. We must bring this session to a close. However, please understand that the residents of Fukushima are here and the mass media are also here, and this is being simultaneously interpreted and set out into the world at the very same time, in real time. From the political point of view, you are a prefectural governor and you try to connect your prefecture with the national government, and this is a historic accident that has taken place. When we think about the evacuees, of course, crisis management needs to be improved, but the governor's leadership needs to be exercised properly as you move forward. If you could please speak about your determination to make that the reality. Since the accident had happened, to the residents of our prefecture and everyone in our country, as well as the people around the world, you have all assisted us greatly and supported us greatly. We want to make sure this never happens again, and we would like to make our investigations to make certain that we can create a society that has a bright future. And we ask for your continued guidance as we strive to do this. We would like to have the governor of the prefecture, and if this could lead to the revitalization of Fukushima prefecture and our country as a whole, if all of you could work very hard on this. And for those of you residents of Fukushima who are going through a lot of pain and suffering, this will most likely go on for quite a long time. We are very concerned about this. We want to show the world that we will revitalize ourselves, and we are also at the same time considering what it is that we can do for the residents of Fukushima and the people of our country. Thank you so very much for your time and your participation today. Governor Sato, thank you very much for your participation today. Please feel free to leave this hall. Thank you very much. Well then, as far as the National Diet of Japan, Fukushima Nuclear Accident Independent Investigation Commission, under our Article 12, Item 1, we have asked for the submission of information. As far as this commission is concerned, under Article 12, Item 1, we have requested the submission of information and documents. We have given to the commission members the documents based on our request for documents, including electronic materials and others. If you could please refer to your documents, the content of that includes the methodology that will be utilized for investigation, as well as the content of that investigation. And we cannot disclose this because we must also consider the interests of the third party as well. And as for the distributed materials, the Fukushima Nuclear Accident Independent Investigation Commission, under our law, Article 7, Item 6, we will not be distributing this information. We have only distributed it to the commission members. That we'd like you to please understand. We cannot distribute it to everyone else in attendance. We'd like to have Mr. Anjo give an explanation about this, please.
Now I would like to explain. For the commission members, you can refer to the document. Please refer to the document 1/1. Hatamura's committee, this is the independent commission by the government. Hereafter, I would like to call Hatamura Commission. All the records, electronic documents were listed in here. For electromagnetic records and other materials, vis-à-vis Hatamura Commission. After explaining the need for this commission to get those documents by Hatamura Commission, we have been making requests. The Hatamura Commission submit the document. We actually have consulted with the commission. Would you please refer to document 1/2, which is a document we provided to the commission. In 1/1, the electromagnetic note record and other documents, the Hatamura Commission responded to our commission because it was difficult to get approval from the original provider of documents to resubmit the document for this particular commission. So Hatamura Commission said to this commission that please refer to the document of the Hatamura Commission, not the document, not through the contacting the original provider of the document. If the document would not be submitted by Hatamura Commission, after explaining the situation to Commission today, as per Article 12, Item 1 of the law governing this commission, we would like to make official request for the submission of the documents. This is a repeat of what I'm explaining to you. This commission was based upon the law on the NAIIC as per Article 12/1. It says that if this commission considers it necessary, the central governments and the public institution to the utilities, this commission is entitled to forward the request, such a request. And as otherwise specified, the institution who received the request should submit the documents. So all the materials, including electromagnetic materials, as listed on the document 1/1, the respective working groups had already considered the necessity of such document. And today, in this commission, we would like to consider again the necessity of such document for the deliberations of the commission, the Hatamura Commission, or to the Cabinet Secretariat. I would like the Commission to consider whether we will make official request to a Cabinet Secretariat or the Hatamura Commission for the formal submission of the documents listed in the document 1/1. Thank you very much, Secretary General of the Secretariat. Commission members, do you have any opinion? If no, a particular document for the documents, including electromagnetic records and others, written in the document 1/1, are the documents necessary for our consideration as per Article 12/1. The Commission will forward the request of the submission of the document to Hatamura Commission or the Investigation Commission of the government, as well as the official request go to the Cabinet Secretariat for the submissions of the said document listed in 101. I see no objection, so decided. In the future, for the Cabinet Secretariat, as shown in document 1/1, including electromagnetic and other materials, we will make official request to submit those documents, but we will actually ask the Hatamura Commission to submit the document by the May 31st, 15 o'clock, And I hope that Commission member will entrust me as chairman to deal with the situation. So there are no objections, so I will be in charge of the communicating with the Hanamura Commission and the Cabinet Secretariat. And with that, I would like to adjourn the session by thanking all of the residents of Fukushima Prefecture and the media and the viewers of the net and the people of Japan. Thank you very much for viewing our session. The next commission meeting is not really officially scheduled yet. Once the schedule is determined, the information will be notified. Thank you very much. We would like to adjourn the meeting of the commission at this moment. For the press, I would like to announce that press conference by the chairman will be held 40 minutes later at 17:45 in this meeting room. Press conference will start at 5:45 p.m. Thank you very much.
メディア関係の方。すいません。メディア関係の方、ただいま2階の方で設営をされていると思いますけれども、一般傍聴席の方が空きますので、ペンの記者の方はできるだけ1階の中央の方。